All right, back to the shuffle story now. Let's get right at it with a mini ad issue. Andrew's here in Toronto. Chantel's on a break, so Rosie joins us from Ottawa. Rosie, let me start with you. What's the headline out of this? What's the banner headline out of this shuffle?
I think there's a couple of them. I think it is true that the government is trying to respond to the new administration that's coming next week, and that they want to have sort of their best communicator and the person who knows the United States best in place, and that is Chrystia Freeland. And then I think the second part, the part they don't want us to talk about as much, is cabinet shovels are also to get rid of problems. And there were a number of problems in their cabinet that they needed to move along, whether it be Stéphane Dion or Mariam Monsef or others. And this was an opportunity to clear the decks on that front too.
Andrew.
I agree very much. I think the imperative was the Trump administration. This presents this government so many challenges on so many fronts because it's completely unprecedented, whether you're talking about trade or tax policy or immigration, defense. They needed to have somebody in the foreign minister's job that had the prime minister's confidence. I think some of these other moves, they might have been prepared to wait, but they had to make this change, and everything else followed from that.
So what is so different then about how we'll approach the U.S. as a result of what we saw today, Andrew?
Well, first of all, you've got to have somebody who enjoys the confidence of the Prime Minister and has the Prime Minister's ear, and Ms. Freeland very much has that. She's obviously clearly, in many ways, the anti-Trump when it comes to things like trade policy, when it comes to dealing with Russia, so they're sending signals with that. I think you could also interpret the appointment of Mr. McCallum to ambassador to China as well, that the China trade opportunity is a way of giving us more options in dealing with the Americans. And finally, you need somebody who's got a bit of diplomatic tact, and whatever Mr. Dion's other strengths, that would not be one of them.
You know, the Chrystia Freeland story is fascinating on many levels because she's emerged fairly rapidly as, you know, after the Prime Minister, kind of the rock star in this cabinet, if you will. She's getting an enormous amount of responsibility and influence in terms of the way Canada moves forward on the foreign stage. But in some ways, she's had that almost from the beginning of this government. What does that tell us? Is she sort of the number two there now, Rosie?
I don't know if I'd go so far as to say she's the number two, but I think you're right in that she has influenced this government even before they were government, even when they were trying to come up with a platform, whether it be on income inequality, right? The wealthy are getting wealthy, the poor are getting poorer. She had a huge influence on how this government would approach that, and on being sort of pro-globalization, or explaining better to the world the benefits of globalization, which was sort of the other part of what she did as trade minister. So she does have a huge influence, and because she is well-read, well-traveled, and has really friends in very many different countries because of some of these different experiences she's had over her lifetime, she's able to bring back that kind of perspective to the cabinet table, and I think that is hugely valuable. I also think that over the past years, she's gotten, frankly, a lot better at communicating, taking really complex issues and making them very understandable to Canadians. So that as well will be valuable in this current role.
On that point, Andrew?
Well, in some ways, her influence has been, I don't want to say malign, but they imported this storyline from the Americans about the stagnating middle class, huge amounts of inequality, that is very much more true in America than it is in Canada. Nevertheless, the pairing of liberal internationalism, free trade, with traditional left-of-center social progressivism is a good one, all things considered, and it may be a timely message in terms of dealing with some of this discontent that's afoot in all the Western countries.
You know, a lot of us were watching two monitors through most of today. We saw what was going on in Ottawa, the Prime Minister with his new cabinet, his news conference, and then on the other side, we saw the congressional hearings going on in the United States where Donald Trump's picks for his cabinet position, starting today with Jeff Sessions, the Attorney General, were getting grilled, and in some cases, like really grilled, by opposition members on Capitol Hill, as part of the process for confirmation. So one side we see, you're in, I picked you, you're there. On the other side, we're seeing a confirmation process that's far different from here. On a day like today, which is better? Rosie, you want to?
I like trial by fire myself. I don't know that I want to know everything or try and investigate every aspect of a minister just the day that they're appointed. I think that that would discount some people, frankly, who maybe don't have the experience on day one. Karina Gould is a good example. She's the new Minister of Democratic Institutions. She's 29. She's been an MP for 1 year. If she had to sit in front of a congressional hearing where people grilled her about her life and all aspects of it, would she have made it past? I don't know. So I think that this allows ministers to sort of grow into their role, and I'm not sure there's anything wrong with that. Sometimes they don't succeed, and then they'll be shuffled out. So there is a way to deal with the problem if one arises.
Andrew.
In some ways, it reflects, obviously, we have different political systems. Their Congress is much more independent of the executive than ours is in Canada, but that's by design here. But in some ways, what it also says is cabinet ministers matter in the United States. These are people with actual authority, with actual clout, with actual ability to influence events. So much of our system of government is run out of the Prime Minister's office that most of the cabinet ministers, frankly, are there for show. They're there to be communicators. They're there to be a focus group of the Prime Minister, as they were famously described. And we see that with some of these pretty important sounding profiles like the Democratic Institution, where you put in place people who have very little experience or background in that job. They obviously have some other talents, I don't want to deny that, but you'd prefer, all things considered, to have somebody who has some actual experience in the job that they're being asked to do.
All right, leave it at that. Thank you much. Rosie, good to see you, as
Good to see you.
always. And Andrew here in Toronto.